Welcome to Adu Globe. Discover new ideas, learn exciting things, and be amazed every day. Russia's overwhelming military machine was expected to steamroll Ukraine within days. Tanks, jets, artillery, the world believed sheer numbers would decide the war. But something remarkable happened. Ukraine didn't collapse. Instead, it rewrote the rules of modern combat. Where brute force should have prevailed, innovation stepped in. Through cheap, fast, and adaptable drones, Ukraine has turned battlefields into deadly laboratories of technology. The side that was meant to be crushed is now forcing its enemy to adapt, rethink, and struggle for survival. This isn't just a war of weapons, it's a war of imagination. And Ukraine has proven that imagination, when paired with courage, can be more powerful than any tanked column. On July 9, 2025, near Kharkiv, Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade carried out a maneuver unlike anything the world had ever seen. Instead of tanks or artillery, a swarm of small, ground-based kamikaze drones rolled across the battlefield. The Russian soldiers dug into their positions, prepared for the usual devastating explosions. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the drones stopped just short of detonation, revealing a simple message attached to its frame: surrender. Raise a white flag. The stunned soldiers hesitated, unsure if this was a ruse. Before they could act, another drone arrived, this time carrying a strip of white fabric. Slowly, it positioned the flag in plain sight, leaving no room for doubt. Surrounded by machines that could detonate at any second, the Russians were trapped in a silent psychological game: resist and die, or accept surrender ordered by drones. The battlefield turned into something surreal, machines dictating terms of human survival. Then came the most shocking moment. The drones began issuing instructions. Some carried small speakers, commanding the Russians to lay down their weapons. Others hovered overhead, guiding them step by step along a path. Slowly, the armed men obeyed. With rifles dropped, they marched under the buzzing presence of drones, machines leading them toward captivity. For the first time in history, soldiers were escorted into surrender without a single human guard in sight. Analysts quickly called it the world's first drone-controlled surrender. What once sounded like science fiction became battlefield reality. Ukraine had demonstrated that drones were not only weapons of destruction but also tools of psychological warfare, machines that could negotiate without firing a single bullet. This was more than just a tactical victory, it was a glimpse of the future, where technology reshapes not only how wars are fought but how soldiers decide whether to fight at all. Across the battlefield, drones have become the single most decisive weapon of this war. What began as improvised tools has evolved into a full-scale technological arms race. Neither Russia nor Ukraine can claim absolute dominance because traditional offensives, armored pushes, artillery barrages, infantry charges, are being neutralized by swarms of cheap, fast, and expendable drones. This is why the front lines have turned into a stalemate. Both sides control certain territories, but every attempt to break through is shredded by drone surveillance and drone strikes. Instead of rapid territorial gains, the war has slowed into a grinding contest of attrition, with drones serving as the watchful eyes and ever-present executioners above the trenches. Analysts now argue that drones are no longer support tools, they are the very foundation of modern warfare strategy in Ukraine. On the surface, Russia entered the war as an unstoppable giant. With nearly 3 times Ukraine's active troops, thousands of tanks, one of the largest artillery arsenals in the world, and a powerful air force, the balance seemed one-sided. Analysts believed Ukraine would collapse in weeks under such raw firepower. But despite this massive advantage, Russia failed to break Ukraine. The expectation of a quick victory collapsed as Ukraine used speed, flexibility, and technology to counter brute strength. The war showed that dominance is no longer just about numbers, it's about adaptability, innovation, and using modern tools to change the rules of battle. Traditional firepower couldn't secure victory, but drones reshaped the battlefield completely. Reports from Politico noted how Ukrainian units used drones not just for scouting, but for precision strikes, ambushes, and psychological dominance. Suddenly, Russian troops found themselves vulnerable even in areas they once thought were safe. Drones flipped the balance. To illustrate the scale, journalist David Axe highlighted a staggering projection. Ukraine could destroy 2,256 Russian armored vehicles using just $101 million worth of drones, a fraction of what traditional missiles would cost. This wasn't just math, it was rhetoric showing how drones provided a cost-effective equalizer against Russia's massive arsenal. This drone revolution became more than a tactic, it was a symbol of how modern warfare had changed. Small, fast, and inexpensive machines were rewriting the rules of combat, forcing Russia to adapt at every turn. For Ukraine, innovation wasn't just survival, it was transformation. The war itself became a testing ground for the future of global conflict. On today's front lines, drones have carved out invisible, kill zones. Any soldier moving within 6 to 9 miles of the front risks being spotted and attacked by hovering eyes in the sky. Unlike traditional artillery, drones can stalk, track, and strike with precision, turning what used to be safe rear areas into constant danger zones. Soldiers now fight in a battlefield where safety has no clear boundary. Medium-range drones, like Ukraine's Shershin, push this threat even farther. With a range of 37 miles and at a fraction of traditional missile costs, they allow commanders to strike deep, sometimes hitting from the front and the rear at once, trapping enemies in pincer-style attacks. What was once a flat battlefield has become a layered geometry of overlapping kill zones where mobility itself is a gamble. Drone-dominated skies have made even the simplest act of war, rescuing the wounded, an almost impossible mission. Medics now risk being hunted by the same drones that stalk soldiers. Every step toward an injured comrade can expose entire teams to sudden attack. One Ukrainian doctor told The Independent, "The battlefield has become the great calculator of war. Every move, every life is weighed against the risk of being seen." These kill zones have forced a brutal trade-off. Saving the wounded often means sacrificing the living. Evacuations are slower, fewer, and deadlier. Some soldiers now bleed out not because help isn't there, but because reaching them is too dangerous. The war's new arithmetic is cruel. Advanced drones save resources, but they also multiply the human cost of every battle. On today's battlefields, drones are no longer just surveillance tools, they've become the leading cause of destruction. Reports indicate that nearly 60 to 70% of casualties now come directly from drone strikes. Soldiers in trenches are under constant threat, not just from above but from drones weaving through broken terrain and even targeting hiding spots. This dominance has forced commanders to rethink every single step, as drones decide who lives and who doesn't in this war of attrition. In response, both sides are racing to shield their forces from this invisible threat. Front lines are now covered with vast layers of camouflage netting and mesh to intercept incoming drones. But even with these defenses, roads remain perilous. FPV drones streak low and fast, making resupply and evacuation runs almost impossible. What once were safe routes for logistics have become kill zones, reshaping how armies move and fight. The battlefield itself is being rewritten by these flying machines. Russian forces, once known for deploying heavy armored columns, are now being forced into a very different style of fighting. Analysts like Oleg Ignatov have noted that Moscow's reliance on tanks and artillery has been reduced in several sectors. Instead of advancing with massive firepower, Russian units are increasingly holding back heavy equipment, aware that drones are waiting overhead to expose and destroy them. The shift shows how deeply the drone threat has penetrated their planning. According to Politico, many Russian operations are now conducted by small assault teams, often fewer than 10 soldiers, moving with stealth rather than overwhelming force. These compact units spread out, advancing in fragments to avoid becoming easy drone targets. It's a striking contrast to the older doctrine of massed formations, and it highlights how battlefield innovation in Ukraine has forced Russia to adapt. The war is no longer about sheer numbers, it's about survival in a drone-dominated environment. Even when Russian or Ukrainian forces achieve a tactical breakthrough, the momentum rarely lasts. Modern battlefields have become so saturated with surveillance and rapid response firepower that exploiting gaps is nearly impossible. An assault may push forward for a day, maybe even capture a few trenches, but without the ability to mass reinforcements, the advantage quickly collapses. Both sides find their initial victories slipping away almost as fast as they appear. Once a gap opens, drones and artillery immediately target advancing troops, forcing them to halt or retreat. Defensive lines are quickly resealed, making it nearly impossible to exploit a breach for any lasting success. This cycle explains why, despite superior numbers on paper, neither Russia nor Ukraine has managed to achieve a decisive breakthrough. The war grinds on in stalemate, where holding territory matters more than capturing it. Both Russia and Ukraine now rely heavily on drones, but Ukraine has managed to push innovation further. Supply lines, reconnaissance, and even basic resupply are increasingly handled by unmanned systems. Kyiv's strategy goes beyond the skies. Ground-based drones are being deployed to deliver ammunition, evacuate casualties, and even carry out explosive missions. This approach is transforming not just combat, but the very rhythm of warfare itself. Ukraine's drone industry has expanded rapidly, with more than 200 companies now contributing to design and production. Officials have set a goal of deploying 15,000 ground drones by the end of 2025, creating an innovation flywheel, where battlefield needs fuel constant development. This industrial momentum ensures that every setback leads to a new adaptation, giving Ukraine a flexible edge even under immense pressure. Ukraine has taken drone warfare to a new dimension by forming entire battalions dedicated to unmanned systems. One such unit, the 20th Regiment of Unmanned Systems, fields vehicles like the RATELH, small tracked machines capable of delivering supplies under fire or striking enemy positions. These units symbolize how the battlefield is no longer dominated only by tanks and artillery, but also by swarms of agile, expendable robots. Ukraine faces another deadly challenge: mines. Nearly 40% of its territory is estimated to be contaminated, with around 2 million mines scattered across the land. Clearing them could take over a century. To speed up this impossible task, Ukrainian innovators have built specialized drones like the BI-designed mine picker, capable of detecting and neutralizing hidden explosives. From carrying ammunition to clearing fields, these machines reveal just how diverse the role of drones has become. As the war grinds on, both Moscow and Kyiv confront the same reality: people are finite, but drones can be produced in limitless waves. Analysts describe this as substituting people for drones, a doctrine where machines gradually absorb combat roles once borne by humans. Mobilization numbers are high on both sides, but sustaining such manpower over years is nearly impossible. Russia has pulled in hundreds of thousands for its forces. Ukraine has mobilized deeply as well. Yet drones offer endurance where human reserves falter. Analysts at CSIS stress that even if a ceasefire arrives tomorrow, the lesson will remain: modern defense requires drones as a permanent pillar, not just a wartime tool. The doctrine is shifting from manpower-centered warfare to machine-centered resilience. This is more than a tactical adjustment, it's a redefinition of war itself. The battlefields of tomorrow may depend less on mobilizing populations and more on how fast nations can innovate, scale, and deploy autonomous systems. Substituting people with drones is not just a temporary fix, it's the future of strategic planning and national security. If you found this breakdown insightful, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep analyzing the critical shifts shaping the future of war.